She called me a fake woman because I couldn't give her grandchildren. I didn't expect that from my MIL.
I'm the lawyer whose mother-in-law broke into my office, went through a case file, and then casually discussed it during lunch before getting kicked out of my house.
Does that ring a bell? Yeah, I thought it might.
I've given her the nickname Piercing Patty because of her habit of violating attorney-client privilege, and also because her real name is Patricia.
Does it feel good to have your privacy violated, Patty?
Yeah, I don't think my client appreciated it much either, you nosy bit. I deleted my previous posts because I really like my job and want to keep it, but you probably have the gist from what I just said.
So, let me catch you up. The last time I told you about this, I was trying to find it in me to forgive her.
Up until that point, she had been, well, not perfect, but okay. She was a fine, average mother-in-law. But now, she's at the top of my blacklist, right next to people who stick their gum under tables and anyone who doesn't like dogs. This is the story of how she and I went to no contact. It's pretty long, with a lot of moving parts, so I'll probably have to break it into several parts. Piercing Patty has a younger sister named Al, and Al has a daughter named Sil. Al is a nice woman, but our relationship only goes as far as polite conversation every other Thanksgiving, so I wouldn't exactly call us close. Al and Patty live in the South, while my husband, DH, and I live in a much larger, more urban coastal state.
Sil goes to school in our city.
She's a smart, wonderful young woman, and I've grown quite fond of her. Since we're the only family she has in the area, we're lucky enough to host her for long weekends during holidays like Martin Luther King Jr. weekend.
It's great.
It gives her a chance to do laundry, and I have someone to talk to about my guilty pleasure, celebrity gossip. We feed her, she sometimes walks the dog for us, I treat her to a mani-pedi, and then we send her back with clean clothes and leftovers. Al's always told me how thankful she is that we open our home to Sil.
Honestly, it's no problem. She's a great kid.
Then, about 2 months ago, Sil was in a car accident. She was hit by a drunk driver while driving home from class.
It was bad.
Her car looked like a crumpled piece of paper. When I went to the tow yard to sort out the insurance stuff and saw how destroyed her car was, I honestly couldn't breathe for a second.
We were lucky, though. She only ended up with a broken leg and a fractured wrist. It could have been so much worse. I'm still furious just thinking about it.
Naturally, Al was freaking out, wanting to be with her daughter as soon as possible. The story goes that Al was so upset she asked Patty to come along for support, but I think the reality is Patty invited herself, and Al just didn't have the heart to say no.
I get it, her kid was hurt. But Patty, I see what you're doing now. I thought I was paranoid, but I was right all along. You're pulling the long con.
I know it probably doesn't make sense yet, but you'll understand more in my next posts. DH and I got to the hospital first, made sure Sil was okay, and then DH stayed with her while the doctors worked on her. I went off to take care of lawyer things. Because if you think you can get drunk and hit the only person in my life who knows all the Kardashians' names, you're in for a surprise.
Al and Patty arrived the next day, mid-afternoon. They booked the next flight out.
Fine, but we called to tell you that Sil was okay, so maybe you could have slowed down a little and planned the trip better.
For example, where were you planning to stay when you got here? Of course, you expected it to be my house. Why wouldn't you? It's not like I banned Patty from it for breaking into my office and risking my job over it.
But since Sil's in the hospital, I'm the one who will look like the jerk for sticking to my boundaries.
Now, here's where things get interesting, part 2. Patty almost gets arrested twice. Part 3, the unforgivable thing. Update 2, Piercing Patty almost gets arrested twice. When we last left off, we were having a little family reunion at the hospital, Sil, DH, me, Al, and the star of the show, Piercing Patty. Al showed up at the hospital, running around, fluffing pillows, talking to doctors, calling whoever it is you call when your kid's hurt. Meanwhile, Patty was sitting in the corner, pretending to be tired. And when I say pretending to be tired, I mean she was doing an exaggerated impression of a tired person. She was yawning dramatically, stretching her arms, rubbing her eyes. She looked like a French mime. She didn't say it, but I knew she wanted to come home with me and DH. Too bad.
As soon as I saw that Sil was being taken care of by her loving mother, I was ready to leave. I was exhausted. I gave DH the signal we use at parties to say, "Let's get out of here," and we started putting on our coats. Patty stopped us and had the nerve to say, "What about me?" What about you, Patty? For once, none of this is about you. Where am I supposed to stay? Don't you guys live in a treehouse or something? I paused for a second, then realized this isn't about me either. I ignored Patty and turned to Al. I asked where she was planning to stay. Al said she was going to stay at the hotel next to the hospital because they didn't rent a car and wanted to be close to Sil. You know, like a normal parent. So, there you go, Patty. If the real reason you came was to help Al, I guess you can stay at the hotel too. But, of course, logic doesn't work on Patty. Can I come home with you guys to rest for a few hours? DH gave me a look because he knew I was about to snap, but I wasn't having it. Me? No, Patty. Hi, not me, because Elle needs help with her daughter. That's why you're here, isn't it? I know it's not. We skipped the 2017 holidays with you, and now you think you can get back into my house? Over my dead body. Oh, AL's fine without me for a few hours. Me, then why did you even come? DH and I don't have time for back and forth all day. We have work to do, and we're going home. Patty, oh, I'll just call a cab later. Oh, you kids call it a goober? You know damn well what it's called. I shoved you into one 6 months ago so you could get to the airport. I knew exactly what she was doing. I'd been paranoid about her before, but now, I was sure. She was pushing to get back into my house after I'd kicked her out, and I was going to push back. DH, well, if you need a place to nap for a couple of hours. Me, then go check into your hotel, Patricia. Everyone's had a long night. DH knows he almost messed up, so he just stayed quiet. I followed him, and when we got home, we crawled into bed, but it was only an hour before our phones started ringing. It was the gate guard. Update 2.5, Piercing Patty almost gets arrested the second time. A few of you have pointed out how disappointing it is that I'm back here again, and honestly, I feel the same way. I really thought Patty and I had made progress, that we were going to be one of those rare stories where the just no moment was just a bump in the road. I wanted to forgive her, but I needed time to heal. She, however, didn't think I was forgiving her quickly enough. Over the last 6 months, she's been pushing to wedge herself back into our lives. It started with her asking once a month if she could come visit, then it became weekly, and before I knew it, it was almost every day that I had to tell her no, you can't stay with us. We're still not over what you did. It's like a scab, you keep picking at it, and it never has the chance to heal. So, her trying to force herself into my home became my breaking point. I stopped protecting her feelings and didn't sugarcoat it. Every time she asked to come over, I told her the truth. I don't trust you here anymore after what you did. Still, she kept at it. After that Holgate incident, I found myself in a position where I still wanted to visit Sil at the hospital, but I absolutely did not want to interact with Patty. In the end, though, I went because I care about Sil more than I hate dealing with Patty. Al needed a break after everything that had happened, so I told her to go back to the hotel, and I would take over for the evening with Sil. I brought Sil all her favorite snacks and some gossip magazines. We were chatting about some boy she was seeing and whether he liked her or really liked her. To be young again. Just as we were getting into it, Patty walked in, and honestly, the look on her face made the whole room feel cold. I can't even explain it well, but imagine spending all day at a salon, paying a lot of money for a perfect hairdo, only for your husband to say, "I liked it better before." That's the kind of look Patty had. It was pure disdain. I wasn't going to let it get to me, though. I wasn't about to let Patty ruin my focus on Sil. We were there for her, not for Patty. I figured the best thing was to just deflect the attention away from me. Me, hello, Patricia. I don't know why, but I couldn't help myself. Being formal with her in that moment felt like sweet revenge. Suck it, Patricia. We ain't friends anymore. Patty, what are you doing here? Me, we're just hanging out, Sil and I.
What's your excuse? Patty, where's Al? Me, Al took a ride share to Target.
She packed so fast, she forgot a few things.
Seriously, that's what we're calling ride shares now? If I wasn't so irritated, I might have found it funny.
Sil got distracted with her mom on the phone, and that's when Patty turned all her attention on me.
Patty, I don't know what I did to make you treat me like this. Me, seriously? You broke into my office, you compromised my client's confidentiality. Do you really not remember that? I couldn't believe she was even asking. Patty, are you still mad about that? Me, yeah, Patricia, it's kind of a big deal. You can apologize all you want, but that doesn't change the fact that you could have destroyed everything for me in DH. Patty, well, you can't keep me out of your life forever. I'm DH's mother. I have a right to be in his house. Me, he owns half of that house, Patricia. So which half do you want? The left half or the right half?
I've started playing a game with myself, seeing how many different ways I can say her name while stressing different syllables.
It's become a little fun hobby of mine.
Patty, I would never talk to my mother-in-law that way.
Me, you don't even have a mother-in-law, Patricia. So, do you want the top half of the house, or the bottom half? We could even divide it into quarters, and you could take 2 sections at a time.
Sil finished her call with her mom, and that was the end of that conversation.
Patty, Sil, I brought you dinner.
She handed her a bag of McDonald's.
Sil, oh, no thanks.
I'm full from the stuff Mom brought.
You can leave it there, I'll eat it later. Patty, well, I can't do anything right, can I? Mother-in-law gets to do everything, and I can't do anything right.
Sil looked at her, confused.
Patty, go ahead and ruin your body with that junk.
She pointed to the snacks I brought.
I'm a mother. I know you need real food to get better. Chill, lady. Chicken nuggets don't have healing powers. Mother-in-law isn't even a real mother. She couldn't do what I did. I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
At this point, Sil was starting to tear up. She was being yelled at for not eating McDonald's, and it was starting to scare her. I knew Patty's anger was all aimed at me, so I stood up to leave. I didn't want Sil to have to carry my emotional baggage.
As I was gathering my things, splash. Patty threw a big gulp of McDonald's Coke at me. First off, this purse is Yves Saint Laurent. You just ruined the leather by getting it wet, so you're pretty much dead to me now. Secondly, you were yelling so loud that a nurse poked her head in, saw you throw the drink at me, and immediately called security. Sil yelled at Patty to stop. Security showed up, and Sil begged them to make Patty leave. I was already headed out the door because I needed to mourn the damage to my expensive purse. And then it happened, Patty lunged at me, not to hit me, but to get close enough to scream some more in my face. Security wasn't having it. They grabbed her arm so hard she fell flat on her butt. Ha! They told her if she didn't leave immediately, they were calling the cops. True to her usual behavior, Patty grabbed one of those cheap pink plastic cups off Sil's bedside table and threw it at one of the security guards before she took off running out of the hospital, faster than I expected. I didn't think she could even run, but wow, I was wrong. It was impressively quick. Next, the unforgivable thing that led to no contact. Update 3, Piercing Patty does the unforgivable thing. I just have to start by saying how genuinely moved I am by everyone who took part in the "I'm not a real woman because" comments. Your support for me and those who struggle with infertility has been incredible. I read every single comment, and honestly, I never thought of myself as less of a woman for the condition I have. When we got the news from my doctor, I just took it in stride, like a scar, or maybe a hair color. It was just another characteristic of my body that I couldn't change, so why be ashamed of it? But when Patty said the unforgivable thing to me, it was the first time I felt small about it. It was as if someone was telling me for the first time that I should feel deeply ashamed of it, and that I should regret it for the rest of my life. Well, I don't feel that way. I'm not ashamed, and I'm not going to let her make me feel that way. I have thousands of friends online, Patty, and they make me feel 10 feet tall.
I don't fit into your narrow, outdated idea of what a woman should be, and that's fine. Because your approval would destroy me. You guys make me laugh. I get a lot of questions, and even though I wouldn't say they're all equally important, I'm going to answer some of them.
I had my YSL bag repaired, readied, and rewoven.
It survived, but it'll never be the same.
Sil is doing fine now.
She's recovering well physically, although I think she's still nervous about driving by herself. I know it makes her anxious to do simple things like run errands.
Poor thing.
Now, last you heard, I was heading home from the hospital, still upset about what happened. I got home, talked to DH, and then went straight to my closet. I grabbed my purses off the shelves, one by one, until I found the right one. I dug into the unlined pocket, pulled out one of my emergency cigarettes, and took a long drag.
I was so angry. Patty humiliated me.
She threw a drink in my face like I'm some kind of reality TV star.
Did I get my own show? If so, when's the paycheck coming?
My purse was ruined, and I had bags to replace.
DH came in and held me for a while. We talked.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around why Patty was acting this way.
It's so much worse than before. Before, she was just a pain in the neck, but now it's escalating. I'm really worried.
I started thinking maybe she has a brain tumor or something. I'll later learn that the only thing wrong with her is that she's just a flat-out jerk.
DH called his mom and set up a meeting.
She tried to explain herself, but honestly, it was so ridiculous that I couldn't follow her reasoning. It just made things worse. We both agreed this couldn't continue. As luck would have it, Al, who's now furious at Patty for yelling at her injured daughter, kicked Patty out of the hotel room they were sharing. Patty ended up booking a flight back to her home in the south because she had nowhere else to stay. Don't look at me, her flight leaves tomorrow evening, so we plan to have lunch with her before we drop her off at the airport.
Before lunch, though, I want to share something with you. DH and I have been childless.
Not child-free, but we like to travel, go to bars late at night, and do all the adult things. It worked for us for a long time. But in the last year, I've started to think maybe I don't need 2 guest rooms.
One of them would make a great nursery. We weren't actively trying for a baby, but we weren't exactly preventing it either.
If it happened, it happened.
Well, nothing happened.
Nothing for a long time.
It made me feel insecure and, honestly, suspicious.
Long story short, the doctor said it's me.
It's fine.
Please don't give me sympathy, it makes me feel like I should be sadder than I am, and I'm not.
Okay, that's a lie.
I was sad for a second, but honestly, the not knowing was worse.
Now I know what I want to do, foster to adopt. It's not a big deal to me. Now, back to the lunch with Patty.
I can't give you a word-for-word breakdown, but here's the gist: Patty has not saved for retirement at all. She works a normal job that doesn't pay much but supposedly has an incredible retirement plan.
But, of course, accessing that plan would require some planning.
I guess she thought she'd just work until the end. Meanwhile, DH worked his way through school, built a great career, and married me, a woman who works hard too. And now we're in a position where we could help raise Patty as our own.
The end. Just kidding, that's not the end. Not even close.
Patty thought that when we were ready for kids, she'd move in with us and help take care of the baby.
She thought this would be her retirement plan.
Now that we know we're not going to have any biological kids, and the foster to adopt route might lead to adopting older kids who don't need a full-time nanny, she's lost her retirement plan. All along, I thought I might need to beg her to help once a baby arrived, but now, I realize I'll never let her in my house again. She thought she'd wait me out. She thought I'd grovel for her help, but she snapped when DH told her we weren't having kids.
She now knows she might never get her way. Also, side note, Patty is in her early 50s and in good health.
I just saw her run like Usain Bolt from 2 hospital security guards, so I don't think she's ready to retire just yet. She's got a few more years of paying taxes ahead of her. At lunch, DH and I were kind of stunned.
We didn't know what to say at first.
DH was panicking because he knew it would be on him to figure things out for her, but we both agreed this was never going to happen. It's crazy how after all this time together, DH and I can communicate everything in just one glance.
DH flat out told his mom, "You can't live with us. We like our life the way it is. We don't think it's a good idea for you to be here."
And then, as if on cue, she started crying loud, dramatic sobs.
Whatever.
Keep your crocodile tears away from my club sandwich. It's got 3 slices of bread, and I'm not going to let you ruin my celebratory meal. Then she said the unforgivable thing, "If your wife was a real woman, I wouldn't have to live on the streets when I'm old."
Oh, hell no. I'm going to need a 4th slice of bread.
You just ruined my happy sandwich and turned it into a sad one. You just cut me deep, Patricia.
That statement really hurt.
Normally, I let her words roll off me, but this felt like an act of war. Me, you can't just violate the Geneva Convention like that and not expect retaliation.
I shrugged and kept eating my tiny triangles.
Why do they always cut club sandwiches into tiny triangles? I was ready to address the horrific thing she just said, but I had to take a moment. I wasn't going to respond to something that low until I could say something smart. But I was shocked. I could feel the tears coming, and I knew if I blinked, I'd lose it. Suddenly, I was putting on my jacket, and DH was pulling me toward the car.
He threw some cash on the table, and off we went.
I never even said a word to defend myself.
DH shut my car door, and I cried harder than I had in a long time.
I knew at that moment, we were done.
I cried because I was relieved. I thought DH would choose her, because she's his mother.
I thought I'd have to help retire her one day if I wanted to stay with him. But she said the unforgivable thing, and now we're both off the hook. As for Patty, she caught her flight.
Probably took a ride share, now that I think about it. When we got home, I told DH, no more. She's blocked on everything.
I told the gate guards to call the cops if she shows up again, don't even notify me. She needs to get her own phone plan.
Any trips to the south? I'm not going. All the money we were sending her? Done. DH can send her what he wants from his personal budget, but I'm not sending any of mine. I'm a real woman, God damn it.
I don't need to give birth to a child to prove it.
You can suck my dick, Patricia. No contact, full stop. No more updates. That was months ago, and her name isn't even spoken in my house anymore.
DH doesn't bring her up, though I'm sure she's been begging him for more money.
I don't think about her unless I'm feeding llamas. Now we're focusing on becoming foster parents. I can only hope my future kid marries an attorney so I can relive this saga from the other side. Update 4, piercing Patty and my engagement ring.
A few of you asked for more stories about piercing Patty, Patricia, after my last post about going no contact. And honestly, I'm laughing because, 1, I definitely have stories, and 2, you knew they were good enough to tell. Someone recently made a post about a class ring, and it instantly reminded me of my engagement ring drama with Patty. This isn't going to be a long one, but just a little bite-sized snack for you all while we sip some cold drinks.
Right after graduation from law school, DH, then just my boyfriend, took me on a little getaway. And when I say immediately, I mean immediately. I walked off that stage, took pictures with my family, had some champagne, and we were off for a weekend trip, still in my graduation gown.
Yeah, those student loans were real, and we couldn't go far because I had to start preparing for the bar exam the next Monday. So, a weekend was all we could do to celebrate.
We went to this quiet little coastal town and stayed at a B&B that smelled like seashell soap.
We spent the weekend relaxing, eating late dinners, and debating if the seashell soaps were for decoration or actual use.
It was one of the most romantic weekends I can remember.
On Saturday night, after a ridiculously fun seafood dinner, 2 drunk kids with plastic bibs and crab mallets, we walked along the beach. The sun was setting, the breeze was perfect, and I guess DH just couldn't wait anymore, so he popped the question.
Except, here's the catch, he wasn't planning on proposing that weekend.
We always knew it would happen eventually, but this wasn't the planned moment. We'd talked about it being someday, but he just couldn't wait anymore. So, he didn't have a ring. He slipped off his class ring and asked me to marry him with that. I was over the moon, not just because I was getting engaged to the love of my life, but because his class ring was a little too small for him, and he always wore it on his pinky, which made him look like a 1970s pimp.
Hilarious, right?
And then, here I was, wearing it and getting engaged, so it worked out for everyone. We called our parents, got the typical reactions, and I kind of forgot about the engagement while studying for the bar. After that miserable exam, I felt like a blushing bride for the first time. I was almost 30 by this point, but I felt all giddy and excited.
It wasn't about being a bookworm anymore. Finally, I wasn't all business.
And, of course, this meant PP, Patty, was eagerly trying to visit us to celebrate. So, PP comes to town, and without any pleasantries, she asks to see the ring.
I show it to her, knowing it's not my real engagement ring and not wanting to confuse anyone.
I mean, the class ring was just a temporary thing. What she didn't know was that after our trip, DH had taken me to a jeweler to pick out my real ring. And surprise, none of the rings at the store impressed me, so I got to design my own.
High maintenance? Maybe. But I'm glad DH didn't plan it. Picking out my ring was an experience I loved, but it took months to make.
Anyway, so we're driving home from the airport, stopping for lunch, and PP asks to see the ring again.
I show it to her thinking she's just happy that her son's getting married, but no. She asks to try it on. I'm like, maybe later. Honestly, by then, my spine was straightened from dealing with her. She didn't give up.
She kept asking, offering to wear it so I wouldn't lose it or scratch it. And then came the weirdest laugh, a mix of a giggle and a cackle.
It was bizarre. I didn't even get mad, it was just strange. I didn't know what game she was playing. I mean, a class ring is not the same as an engagement ring, right? Especially a men's one.
It's big, masculine, and has engraving or a year stamp. The stone was a dark semi-precious one, nothing bridal about it. The only thing I could think of was that she wanted to wear it because it came from her son.
Why, though? Was she trying to get engaged to her own son, or what?
So, all week, I had to keep an eye on that ring like it was a treasure. I didn't even take it off when I slept, just in case she was going to sneak into our bedroom and put it on to mess with me. Sounds paranoid, but at that point, nothing she did surprised me.
She kept insisting that she should try it on. It felt like I was at some weird interrogation. Finally, my ring was ready. After what felt like forever, I got the call from my jeweler. I couldn't wait to see it. We told PP we had to run an errand and asked her to watch some Netflix while we were out.
I made sure to leave my class ring on my nightstand, knowing I was about to stir things up.
We picked up my new ring, and it was perfect.
A 1.5 carat oval diamond, set in a rose gold band with two tiny birthstones, one for me, one for DH on the inside.
It felt like mine, no one else's. When we got home, PP was on the couch.
I saw the class ring on her finger, and I knew exactly what she was trying to do. So, I went over, grabbed her left hand, yes, her left hand, yikes, and took a good look at the ring she was wearing.
She thought she had one.
But as I held her hand, I slowly dragged my hand down her arm, and clink, clink, clink. I was now wearing my brand new diamond ring. It was freshly cut and sparkled like crazy. She looked down at my hand, and I saw her eyes widen.
She knew then that I wasn't playing around anymore.
I smiled and said, "That ring looks great on you.
You should keep it. It's not even worth that much anyway. What's DH going to do, be mad at me for giving his mother a free ring?" I walked away victorious. Patty didn't say anything else.
She left the class ring on my dresser when she left.
It was never really about the ring. She just wanted to assert control over her son's life. But she didn't get what she expected.
I still wear the class ring around my neck sometimes. It's a reminder of how ridiculous she was, and a funny story I'll always have.
DH doesn't even get it back because when he wears it on his pinky, he starts imitating Italian gangsters from old movies.
So, that's the saga of piercing Patty and the engagement ring. Let's just say, she didn't win this round.
Update 5, piercing Patty on my wedding day. Alright, folks, time for another throwback.
This one goes way back to my wedding day. At the time, I didn't realize it was a just no moment, but now, looking back, it's clear as day. You know how it goes: if you call them out, it's your fault; if you ignore them, it's your fault too. But here we are back in 20XX, and it's the big day. PP, piercing Patty, hadn't been super involved in the wedding planning process. To be honest, I wasn't really all that involved either. I had a friend from college who I trusted to handle most of the details. I sent her a few inspiration boards, and from there, I just let her handle it. Sure, I did the important things: food tastings, venue tours, but the nitty-gritty details? That was all her. It was the easiest wedding planning ever, and honestly, I'd recommend it if you've got someone you truly trust to handle it all. 10 out of 10 would do again. So, my wedding day felt kind of like an extreme version of a surprise party. I was working 70-hour weeks as a young associate, dealing with massive student loan debt, and trying to break into a very exclusive career club at work. I didn't have the time or energy to be super involved. Sure, I cared about things like flowers, lilies, obviously, but at the end of the day, I didn't have room for PP to be involved. She wanted in, but I just wasn't giving her that chance. And that, of course, meant that PP was going to try and get back at me. If I wasn't going to involve her, she sure wasn't going to involve me. So, I had no idea what she was wearing to the wedding. I was just over here thinking everything was cool and that she'd just be happy for me. I had no idea how wrong I was. If you've heard the term foreshadowing before, let me tell you, there was none of it here. This was coming at me like a freight train. Here's something I never mentioned before: I'm not white. I was born in America, but my parents are immigrants, and they made sure I stayed connected to our culture. Brides from my culture traditionally wear red on their wedding day, not white. It's a beautiful tradition, and I wanted to honor it. Plus, let's be real, I look way better in red than I do in white, so there's that too. Now, back to the day of my wedding. I was getting my hair and makeup done, and the hotel suite was buzzing with activity. Suddenly, PP pops in. I asked, what are you doing here? PP, my tits are out. Go away. Please. Me, fine, I'll cover my nipples. You pick, left or right. If you're embarrassed, PP, then maybe you shouldn't show up uninvited to bridal suites. But here we are. PP made a big deal about wanting to show me her dress before the wedding. Fine, whatever. She only has sons and probably wanted to have a daughter moment with me, but I was busy. I told her, can we do this in a bit? I'm in the middle of something. Nope. It had to happen right then and there because my name is Patty, and I'm the center of the universe. Sigh. So I waved her off and said, sure, put it on and let me see it. It was a white wedding dress. Not a big ball gown, but a dress definitely suited for an older bride. Think, this is my 4th wedding, but I've only had 2 husbands. Below the knee, lots of beading and lace, keyhole back, and a rhinestone belt. Honestly, I was a little blind to what was going on. I thought she looked fine, elegant even. And I was relieved she didn't show up in something tacky. The dress was nice if you were remarrying someone else, that is. Maybe her first husband had just confirmed a long affair with his receptionist. Yikes. I smiled at PP and told her she looked stunning. I even offered to show her my dress, thinking we could bond. But poor, naive me. She agreed, and I went to the other room to have my mom help me into my dress. When I came out, I felt absolutely radiant. I had never felt so beautiful, and everyone in the room was tearing up. But when the photographer sent me a few shots, I saw PP's face. She looked like she'd stepped in something disgusting in her new Manolo Blahniks. She was clearly trying to upstage me, but here's the kicker: she didn't even realize I was going traditional. She thought every bride wears white, and she was trying to one-up me by wearing a white dress. Big mistake. When she threw her tantrum, she just ended up looking foolish. Here's the funniest part: in my culture, white is actually worn to funerals. My grandma, bless her heart, didn't speak much English. Since she loved learning about American traditions, she tried to share our cultural tradition with Pages. What she meant to say was, in my country, we wear white to funerals.
But what came out was, you look dead.
I nearly died laughing when my cousin told me that story.
And that's how PP tried to ruin my wedding and failed miserably.